So if you're like me, you're a gamer, probably well into his 30s or older, with a full-time job, children and a partner, you may be looking around for games that you can just pick up and jump into immediately. Islets is actually a Metroidvania which takes approximately 10 hours to complete, which for me is phenomenal because 10 hours is all I really have to spare anyway. When it comes down to the gameplay, everything is dreamy smooth. You get right into it, there's no elongated tutorials, everything feels natural and it's just second nature. The movement is super responsive, and the best thing, there's absolutely zero loading screens between the errors. It's all incredibly instant. I can't begin to describe how much I loved the fact that there was no loading screens. The combat is really intuitive. You have a sword, a bow, and a roll tactic. In terms of its difficulty, it's hard, but it's not too hard, so you still feel like it's a bit of a challenge. It's not one of those super easy games where you feel like you're just completing it for the sake of it. There is still a challenge involved here. Puzzles are the right level of brain teaser as well. Some feel like second nature, but others do make you stop and think for a second. But thankfully, I don't feel like I spent one of my 8 hours stuck on a particular puzzle trying to figure it out. So even though Islets is actually a really short game, it's got a brilliant story. Without giving too much away, it's a clever idea about these 4 islands which were once held together but they've drifted apart. And you play as a mouse with a hunger for adventure, and you're trying to find the way to pull those islands together again. I don't want to go into too much detail as to why you're doing all of this. You'll have to jump into the game and find out for yourself. But outside of that, the NPCs, they're fun, they're witty, and the conversations are the right level for me. There's nothing too in-depth, but you do learn the occasional clue. Going around and speaking to people was a nostalgic part of my childhood, learning where you had to go and learning the ins and outs of the game, not just necessarily the lore, but the direction in which you had to go. You get a sense of that here, but it's not overwhelming. It's not, you have to speak to absolutely every single NPC in order to know where to go next, but it does give you some sort of hints and clues as to pushing you in the right direction, which is really nice. Whilst I'm not an animator and I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes down to the artwork, I just think it's brilliant. It's got a slight cartoon element to it, and it sort of reminds me of Studio Ghibli in some ways, but beyond that, all I can really say is that it's quite nice to look at. The music, again, I'm not a musician, but it's equally as brilliant. There's nothing to write home about in, say, comparison to games such as Doom, which have obviously award-winning soundtracks, but it's still pretty damn good. Overall, the vibe's pretty balanced. There's elements where you're strolling around and soaking up the world and its music, and then there's some good puzzles, some witty storytelling, and a boss battle every now and then to keep you on your toes. Despite missing the game when it initially came out, it's still really worthwhile playing at the end of 2025. Due to my busy schedule, I find myself being able to pick this up every now and then and carry straight on from where I left on. There's nothing too daunting about the game, and it doesn't make you struggle with remembering where you are, even though it's a Metroidvania. It's easy enough to just pick up at the end of the day, maybe lock in for an hour or two and feel like you've made some serious progress. If you're still on the fence about picking up the game, let's run through some of the pros and cons, as that might help. Some of the pros include the fact that obviously it's an incredibly balanced game with the right level of storytelling, exploration and challenges. If your birthday also starts with a 19 and you're as old as me, the structure of the game feels very nostalgic. It takes you back to a time before AAA games where you had these absolutely massive menu systems, far too much information, far too much lore in games, and it just overwhelmed you. Despite there being a few upgrades throughout the game, there's not this unnecessary and bloated skill tree you see with AAA games. And when it comes down to some of these AAA skill trees anyway, the route you take is always unnecessary in the sense that by the end of the game you've unlocked everything anyway, which makes it feel somewhat pointless. The final pro is that it's a pick up and play. You literally jump straight in and it feels intuitive. Nothing feels bloated, it's a very lean but a very concentrated game as well. As for the cons, none of these are actually really cons, they're more just like personal gripes, but let's run through them anyway. One of them is that the auto aim for the bow and arrow can sometimes feel a little off. I'm not too sure if it auto aims at the strongest enemy or the one with the most health, but where there's a few it can sometimes get a little bit awkward. As for the second one, I know a lot of games do this, but I didn't like having to buy an upgrade in order to see the save points and the teleporters that I'd unlocked throughout the game. I'm all for buying a map for an area in order to unlock all of the secret and hidden areas and stuff like that, but the ability to see things that I've already unlocked is slightly annoying. The final problem I found with it is actually something I imagine only comes with PC, and it's really pathetic, but I was playing this on Steam with an Xbox controller and it defaults the icons to the PlayStation for some reason. You can change this in the menu, but you have to do it each time. Thankfully, I'm well versed enough in gaming to know that triangle is the equivalent of Y, but still, it annoyed me a little bit. In terms of a verdict, if you're wondering if I think it's worth playing, the answer is hell yes. You should definitely pick up Islets, especially if you want a short game which feels nostalgic and challenges you just enough. Boss battles are good again, there isn't a need for collecting items in preparation for the battle, it's just you and your determination. For busy gamers, older gamers, dads like me, or anyone that just has a few hours a week, it's a really easy recommendation for me. Overall, I give the game a solid 8 out of 10. I don't know what would make it a 9 or even a 10 out of 10 to be completely honest. I feel like there's a couple of things that it could have done to maybe bring itself forward a little bit, either introducing a few additional weapons, maybe a couple different move sets, things like that. But you know, for a cheap game which is going to take you approximately 8 to 10 hours, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And that's it guys. If you like this video and would like to hear about some other recommendations, subscribe and let me know what other games to review in the comments below. Thanks for coming along and I hope to see you all in the next one.